Hi everyone. In this video, we're going to talk about a very cool framework called Gatsby. It's a static site generation framework that's based on React and GraphQL. Static site has the advantage of search engine optimization because the static site means that all the pages will be pre-rendered during build time. On top of that, a Gatsby website is still a single page app. So all pages are pre-rendered, but it's still a single page app. This might not make sense right now and quite contradictory, so we'll come back to this at a later time. First, install the CLI. Depending on how your npm was installed, you might need sudo. Then create a new project using the Gatsby CLI. Then cd into a new folder and start the development server. Whenever you change the code, the entire website will be rebuilt. Now the website will be available at port 8000, and the GraphQL IDE will be available here. This is a sample page, and this is a GraphQL IDE. The main idea of Gatsby is the combination of page and query and how they work together. This new project comes with 2 sample pages. A page is just a JavaScript file that contains a React component. Let's remove this one. And for the home page, we'll get rid of some of the code here and start from scratch. Let's first create a div and a heading. Check the home page in the browser. You should see the new heading. Now let's create a second page called list. The file name is going to be used as the path for accessing this page. Let's copy the code from the home page and modify it. First, change the heading. Let's put a list of items here. Finally, change the function name. Now back in the home page, let's create a link to the list page. As I said, the file name of the second page is going to be used as a path, so it's a list. Check the browser again, click the link to go to the second page. Remember I said earlier that even though all these pages will be pre-rendered during build time, but this is still a single page app. Since we're using the built-in link element to create a link to a different page, the new page rendering will be happening inside the same HTML page because it's a single page app. It will not send you to a different HTML page. But if you go to the second page using the address bar, this will be a different HTML page. This is a pre-rendered version. So to recap, a Gatsby website is both pre-rendered on the backend during build time and dynamically rendered on the front end during runtime. It all depends on how you access a page. Clicking a link, it will render the page dynamically as part of a single page app. On the other hand, typing URL in the address bar, it will serve you the pre-rendered static version. And both versions look the same. So that's essentially what page is all about. Now let's move on to the other key concept of Gatsby, query. A query is a GraphQL query that allows you to get data from all kinds of sources during build time and make the data available to the component. As a demonstration, let's get the heading using a query instead of hard coding it like this. We can put the metadata like this in the Gatsby config file. Let's call it my Gatsby GraphQL site. Back in the index page, we're going to use GraphQL to query the title and make it available to the component. You don't have to memorize the exact query of getting the title. You can use the interactive query interface to construct a query. Clicking on a drop-down will show you the properties available, and it simultaneously constructs a query for you in here. Now this file is exporting two things, the component and the query. Exporting the query only means that the result of the query will be available to the component up here as a prop under the name data. Let's refactor this single line function into a regular function. Create a variable to store the title. The structure of the data variable will match the query down here. So it should have a site property, then a site metadata property, and finally a title property. Now we can replace this with the title variable. And this is the title from the config file. Now that we've gotten a taste of GraphQL with page component, let's use the same technique with something more interesting. In the list page, we have a list of data here. Instead of hard coding the items here like this, let's put the data in a JSON file and use a query to pull it into the component. To work with JSON data, we have to install the Gatsby transformer JSON package. And we also have to specify it in the Gatsby config file. Transformer is a plugin that transforms the data provided by a source plugin, such as the file system plugin up here. But this configuration here is only pulling data from the images folder. We need to copy this and create a new configuration that pulls data from a folder called data, which will be a folder where we put the JSON file. And that's how a transformer plugin is working with the source plugin. When you save, it will tell you that it needs to reload. Now let's create a data folder and then a JSON file inside the data folder. Put some data here. The JSON transformer will make this data available for querying. If you take a look at the GraphQL IDE, you can see a new field here made available by the JSON transformer. And this is our items data. Now go to the list page, import GraphQL, and create a query to get the items data. The result will be available as the data prop. Let's turn this into a regular function. Create a variable to store data. Edges is an array, so we should retrieve the first one because we only have one JSON file. One edge represents one single file. And then node, and finally the items. These edges and node convention is everywhere in GraphQL. Usually after the edges field, you would call node to access the content. Now we can remove this and render the data with the loop. Check the browser to make sure it's working. Now if we want to add additional items, we can just add it to the JSON file. And it will get rendered in the page. We went over the two most important concepts in Gatsby development, page and query. In the next video, we'll be talking about dynamic page creation.